when we come in, they tell us, listen, it's a game. They break the rules and we catch them.
They're yelling at each other. In your face, motherfucker. I got your bitch. I'm in your fucking house now. Yeah, face. And I've seen guys fight. Like getting like pull out a pen and go and stab the other guy. I was in the county jail and I saw this. Hey, this is Matt Cox, and I'm going to be doing an interview with James or Jim Michaels, and he is a correctional officer. He's also an author, and we're going to go ahead and get in the interview. By the way, it's funny because I actually am semi-prepared, and yet I have a guy that just gave me a lecture in the comments that was like, bro, you got to get better prepared, man. You know, you have to stop saying, and also gave me a lecture on saying and and I don't even think I do it that badly, or that much. But anyway, so how long have you been? Well, first of all, where were you born?
I was born in Michigan, the Metro Detroit area. So not Detroit exactly, about 20 miles west of it.
Okay. I mean, where was it? This is like a suburb, or is it its own?
Yeah, yeah, it was a suburb.
Okay.
It was called Livonia.
And you went to school there? Did you graduate high school there?
Yep, graduated and went to college for criminal justice. And around that time, a friend of mine had recommended the Department of Corrections. So I looked into it. They required a certain amount of credits that I had. So, and, you know, I wanted to be a police officer. That was my goal. So I figured this would at least be a stepping stone, possibly a career for me.
Right. How long have you been a CO?
7 years.
Okay. So, I mean,
and because I have to disclaim this, I'm not a spokesperson for the Department of Corrections. So whatever opinions I may have does not reflect their opinion. Just a disclaimer I have to put out there.
Okay. But I mean, so you started you said you wanted to be a police officer, but you ended up being a correctional officer. And for 7 years, are you still thinking about being a police officer, or you think this is pretty much it?
After a few years with the department and kind of, you know, you've seen all those news stories about the police shootings and whatnot. And me personally, I didn't want to put myself into that situation where I may or may not have to use a gun. So personally, I figured that being a corrections officer was safer than being a police officer.
That doesn't seem right at all. But I mean, but I know that there's not, that much violence against, correctional officers in general. I mean, at least not in the feds. I don't know about state prison, but in the feds, there's not usually that often do they get, injured, as opposed to being a police officer.
Well, one of the advantages of being a corrections officer is that, you come to know the inmates. They're there for a while, you're there for a while. So you eventually kind of pick up what, they pick up what I'm about, I pick up what they're about. So there's that rapport building that I don't know if I can't speak for police officers, but I feel like that's possibly lacking.
Right. Well, yeah, because I guess every situation is completely different. You don't know the individual.
Right. I mean, you saw probably, a lot of the same COs over and over, so you kind of knew what to expect from them.
Right.
And then they knew what you were about. So it was that, I was like, okay, so you just kind of knew what your situation was going to be when they walked in. Just like I knew what my situation would be, depending on where I work. I'll see certain inmates, I'll be like, okay, this guy, he does this every day, or he does that every day. So it becomes a routine. And I think that's the big advantage of being in corrections, is the kind of just routine.
So what does it take? Like, what are the requirements to be a correctional officer?
I don't remember exactly, because I know that, things have changed, but You had to pass a physical test, take the academy. It's an 8-week long academy. And then I think then they'll take you to another. So after the 8 weeks, you're graduated, and then they'll take you to, at least this is what happened when I started. Things changed, especially with COVID. And then we went to another facility where, they really kind of gave us the more rundown. They gave us a tour, and then of the prison we'd be working at. And then from there, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I remember the tours when we would, they'd walk 15 or 20, I don't know what you want to call them, freshmen or, newbies or whatever. They'd walk them in, and they're looking around. They would be in plain clothes, and they would kind of walk them around. Well, no, sometimes they were dressed out. I think I want to say most of the time they weren't, though. But yeah, they would walk them around. You could just see, like, you could even look at them and tell who was going to be an asshole, who was going to be okay. Like some of them were just, they looked, they looked scared. Like some of them would look scared, and some of them were looking like, tough. But yeah, I remember them walking around, and we were just like, oh my God, these fucking guys. This is going to be the new group.
Right.
Right.
My first day as a rookie, I was nervous, but then I'm sitting in the unit and I'm just watching the guys kind of go about their business. And I'm like, okay. Cause you see in like prison documentaries and whatnot, they go to like the absolute worst prisons in the world. Yeah. They make everything sound worse than it really is, like they'll say, they'll say, in this prison,
yeah,
anything can be used as currency. From candy bars to hygiene, even contraband. And then you kind of walk in, they'll be like, 3 soups for a stick of sausage.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not. It's funny because I'm not saying things pop off, but I mean, if there's just a ton of just it's not that there's just not that much anxiety all the time. You get into a routine, and you go to the rec yard, and you run or you walk, and you come back, and you go to lunch, or you make a soup, or you know what I mean? They do make it seem like you're just constantly on edge, and guys are being attacked left and right. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but I always think of it like this. I'm always like, it's just like a really tough high school.
Yeah.
Only, and you get your group of guys and your buddies, and you get into your routine. And if you're not borrowing money from people, or gambling, or being disrespectful, you just don't have that much to worry about.
Right. And I get what you're saying. Similarity, I would say, between us is that you start off very nervous, then you just kind of get used to it. Like, you're aware things can happen, but like, we don't sit there and we're just scared, like, okay, are they fighting? Are they fighting? Are they fighting? No, like, I can sit there with my partner, and we'll talk about the weather, or a movie, or, what we're going to do on vacation. And then all of a sudden, you'll hear like a radio call for a fight, or you'll hear something, and it's almost like a switch that turns on.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're in game mode, and it's time to go. It's time to handle this.
So how long, so you went through the course, then they assigned you a prison. Do you have like, is there do you have like a buddy system or something? They don't just stick you into a cell block and say, here's 150 guys you have to watch.
No, you shadow somebody for a little while.
Is that like 2-3 months, or?
Again, I don't know what's changed in that time. When I started, I believe it was, maybe 4 weeks months? Or so, maybe 4 to 6 weeks.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of probably a few months.
Well, your probationary status goes for a year.
Right, but I'm not worried about probation. I'm worried about when do I have to be in the unit watching 200 guys or 300 guys? Because in Coleman, and this was at the medium and the low, they have each building's made up of four. I don't know what you would call in the state, but they're like 4 units or pods,
Hmm.
and in those, of course, they might have 150 guys or 180 guys, and they've got 2-man and 3-man cells. And in the medium, they have doors, and you have cells, and you have a toilet and a sink in there. And in the low, you have like a cubicle. They're like a 5-foot wall, but there's no doors, and everybody shares a bathroom. But still, you used to have, when I first started, there was 1 CO for every unit. So every building had at least 4 guards in it. Then there were cutbacks, and there was this and that. Then it became 1 CO for every 2 units.
Oh man.
Now, yeah, so right. So you're sitting over here, and guys would walk in and they go, "Where's the CO?" "Oh, he's next door." So now you got to walk through this long hallway, go to the other fight. You got to find you got to find the CO. You could go without actually, and this is something that was different. Guys that would go to the state and come to the feds, they would say, you have almost no staff interaction. Like literally, you could go months without ever talking to a staff officer. Or really, you could see one, like you might see them walking around in the distance, but they never really stop you. They never bother you. You're on a routine. The door's open. They walk out, they'll open a door and walk away. Like very little interaction. And then a buddy of mine who said now because of COVID, he said it's even worse. He said that they basically came in and they kind of offered retirement to a whole bunch of senior correctional officers, and then they were giving like early retirement to some of them. And he said that the most senior officer on the compound had 18 months. I wanted to let you guys know that I have a Patreon account. If you're interested in joining the Patreon account, it's got 3 tiers. The top tier, you actually get a different con man painting every single month. If you're already joined and you're already supporting me, I really appreciate that. If you haven't joined yet and you're interested in joining, I'm going to leave the contact information for Patreon in the description. Thank you very much for watching the video. Had been around 18 months. He goes, that's the most senior officer. And like listen, he was telling me, he said, look, he said, he was like, it's nothing like when I was there. He said, they did a sweep and found like 100 cell phones. They found, all kinds of different weapons. He said that a guy was making hooch. He had climbed up in the drop ceiling in the bathrooms, and it's drywall, but and then literally there's a space this big. He said the guy had gotten through it's where the vent is, and he'd gotten through there, and he was making hooch, and they just could not figure out for months now. They didn't understand, like, where's this alcohol coming from? But first of all, there's no sugar on the compound, so you have to steal the sugar, or you have to melt down like candy or something, jelly candy, or they have these different candies. Mm-hmm. Some of them have sugar. Anyway, he ends up falling through the drywall in the bathroom and hurts himself. So he broke his leg or something. And so they come in, and he's laying there. There's drug, because otherwise I'm sure he would have scurried away. But they find him there. He's broken his leg, and and then he had gallons and gallons and gallons of hooch. But yeah, and my buddy was telling me, he said the problem is, he said the new COs don't have enough experience to understand what's happening. You know what I'm saying? Like they've been there 6 months or a year. They're not like the older guys who'd been there 20 years. They'd seen everything. Mm-hmm. They would be like, okay, check this, check this, check this. It's one of these 4 places or 3 places. The new guys have no clue.
Right. I mean, you got out at the perfect time, you know, because COVID, I mean, nobody expected something like that. Right. I mean, I can't get into, what exactly had changed and stuff, but, it was scary. It was very scary. I knew a lot of people that got sick. We recently just had it about a month ago on my family. And yeah, it was something, just kind of walking in there, wearing masks and it's just, it's so hard to maintain the regulations that the CDC came up with.
Right.
Like, I mean, out in the street, in prison, I mean, we're all around each other all day.
Well, look, let
So
me
it's difficult.
150 guys living in, or 180 in the low, living in a big room, you already have staph infection. You have if one guy gets sick, it just, next thing you know, it's everybody's sick.
Right.
And I was washing my hands. I'll bet you I wash my hand 40, 50 times a day. Because, you use the computers, you grab the doorknobs, you use, you're using everything. You just can't help but get sick. I mean, and so COVID, that's why they were letting out so many guys. Guys are in their 50s and 60 years old. And they're like, yeah, look, he gets COVID. He may die. So they'll put him on an ankle monitor and saying, go home.
What's funny about that is, COVID was so weird. Like I've seen a lot of guys in their 70s and 80s catch COVID, and personally, I thought, oh man, it's nice knowing you, and then they come back 2 weeks later and they're fine.
Right. Well, it's funny. I got it. So I got it, and my girlfriend got it.
Mm-hmm.
I was in bed for a week.
Mm-hmm.
Every time if I got up and would go to the bathroom and go get something to drink, I would have to lay back down because I felt like I just run 3 miles. She laid in bed for 2 days and was like, "Yeah, I'm done with this. I can't lay in bed anymore. I'm just not. I'm okay. It's not that big of a deal. I've had a cold before, and we had the exact same strain because I gave it to her.
Right.
She went fishing and changed the brakes on her dad's car. I mean, because that's just who she is. But yeah, and while she was sick, but I mean, it hits everybody different. I know a guy that was in great shape, got COVID, and he died. And I know other people that I thought, this dude's done. Like, he's in horrible shape, and he was perfectly fine. Like, he got it. He was sick for like 4 or 5 days, and said he coughed for another week, or felt achy for another week, and he's fine.
It affected our family differently. All my kids had it about the same. They each had like a 24-hour fever, a cough, and then the cough lasted a few days, and they were fine. My wife got really sick for the first 2 days. I mean, she had the fatigue, the dizziness, burning throat, the cough. I was like the last one to get it. I had one bad day. I had, I started coughing one evening. I was like, oh, well, my turn. And the next day I had like a horrible headache for 4 hours. Then I had chills after that for about 3 hours. And then I just had the cough. That started to subside. And then a few days later, my taste and smell fluctuated.
Right.
Which that was the one I was dreading, because my wife's a very good cook. So, I was like, I like to be able to smell and taste.
Right. Well, or were a lot of people in prison getting sick, or?
Cases have dropped, I mean, it definitely fluctuated. I mean, obviously, because you have so much asymptomatic people, it's hard to keep track of it.
Right.
I mean, I know they really, during those 2 years, I'm not just saying that because I work for them, I know they really, tried to take every precaution they could.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a balancing act between being, just unsafe, creating an unsafe environment, and then obviously just creating an environment where, there's just so much interaction. There's just nothing you can do.
Right.
I know Coleman, at one point, they were actually putting guys out in the rec yard. Like, they would have like a good building and a bad building. And then they would get guys and they would have them go to the rec center. And then but the problem is that they would then have this building go into the chow hall. And then immediately afterwards, the people that weren't positive for COVID, they would go to the chow hall. It's like, well, now we're in the chow hall touching things and doing this. And, it's just there's so many, like I said, it's just almost impossible to slow it, to stop it or slow it down or be safe in that kind of environment. So what types of institutions or prisons have you worked at? Like what levels? You had told me about the different levels.
Yeah. 1, 2, 4, and 5.
What does that mean?
I've never dealt with 5. That's like top maximum security. And those guys are, that's like the guys at the pen for you.
Right.
And then 4 is also max, 2 is like a medium, then 1's minimum.
Okay. There's no 1? What you're saying? 1 is like a camp?
There's no 1 is like
I feel like you skipped something.
Pole barns.
Like what?
And pole barns.
What is that?
Like buildings with like hallways and cubes. We got cubes.
Okay.
And then the other levels, it's like more of a dormitory style with, your own room, 1 bunkie or celly.
Okay.
However, whichever vernacular.
I always said celly. I always said celly. All right. So what's a normal day like?
I mean, for me, it's most days, thankfully, are going to work. You meet your partner. You do rounds, check for contraband. I mean, it's all standard stuff. You just kind of follow by the schedule of the day. They go to chow, they go to yard, they go to the call outs. You authorize them to leave, and I mean, it's really, it's most days, thankfully, are uneventful, and I think that's a good thing. I mean,
Right.
Yeah, it's slow. It can be monotonous, but it's better than having to respond to something violent where, somebody got hurt or, a staff person got hurt or whatever.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I don't look for excitement when I'm in there.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple COs that like they would rather work at the pen because they were like, there's always something happening.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, to me, I wouldn't want anything to be happening. You know what I'm saying? No thanks.
Right. I mean, it's different personalities that work there. Everybody's different. Some really, they, for them it's like a thrill, and they like to kind of, be in those situations where you gotta think on your feet and you gotta, figure this out. Maybe there's somebody you have to, get physical with and stuff. I think it's just more the confrontational personality.
Right. Yeah.
Me, I'm more passive. Something happens, I'm going to respond to it.
Yeah. There's yeah. You could always tell that there were the COs that were just like, this is just a job. You know what I mean? Like I just want to come here, do my 8 hours, go home, get paid. I would rather, I don't want anything to happen. Like everybody just behave and that's it. And then you had the other COs who were like, it was like their mission to make everybody's life as miserable as possible, to for the smallest infraction, shake you down or give you a hard time and talk to you like you're a dog. And just, those were the guys. It was just like, you just avoid them,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there were a couple guys like that, or a couple. There was multiple guys like that. It was so funny too because I had a CO one time. I'd walked up. You're not supposed to go into different units,
right?
And I'd walked up to this unit looking for my buddy, and I went and I looked in the window, but I didn't touch the front door had a window on it. I didn't touch it. I just went and I went up, but I just put my hand like this, but I didn't actually touch the window. If anything, I might have touched the metal, but I went and I kind of looked and I leaned back and the CO was inside because I wanted to see if the CO is there before I tried to go in. And I was like, oh, turned around. He comes bolting out. You inmate, get over here. And I was like, yes, sir. And I was actually in the drug program at the time, and you couldn't break any rules. And he's like, I want you to clean this window. And I was like, okay, where are the cleaning supplies? Go, you get the what do they call them? Orderly, get the head orderly. And I was like, okay, I can go in the unit. So I have this whole thing where I'm doing this whole you know, absolutely, yes, sir, no problem, no problem. He wanted me to buck so bad. He was desperate for me to say anything negative. And I was just like, yes, sir, no, sir. And you this, and you touch that window, and that's my window. I said, you are absolutely right. I don't know what I was thinking. You're going to clean this. I said, listen, nobody's more upset about it than me. I said, I assure you, it was absolutely, out of character for me, and I apologize. I personally don't think I actually touched the window, but I hear you. If there's some fingerprints, they may be mine. Let me get the orderly. I mean, he didn't know what to do. When I finally was leaving, he actually stopped. He goes, I don't want to hear you walking around telling everybody I'm an asshole. I said, no, sir, you were right. And I mean, he was desperate for me to argue with. I was like, nope, not going to do it.
If that had been me, say, I'm working where I'm working, I'm seeing you looking through the window. I mean, I may have like leaned over the desk so you could see me, or I would have like stepped in front of you, like through the window, and just gone like, yeah, what's up? Like, have a good day.
Oh no, this guy. They have, all the COs get nicknames.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we've got a guy named Sniper. Or I don't know if he's still there or not. We had a guy named Sniper. I think he was a sniper in like the military. They had a guy named Family Guy who I shit you not, he looked exactly like Family Guy. And we had a guy CO called Keep It Real, because he'd talk to you as soon as you started. You go, somebody would say, no, I didn't do that. He'd, come on, you ain't keeping it real. Come on, keep it real, man. And so he got the nickname Keep It Real. Do you have a nickname?
No. Mike, because of my last name. Yeah, because Michael, so everybody says Mike.
We had a guy. Listen, what's so funny is when the COs would call the inmates by their nickname.
Yeah.
Instead of saying like, Johnson, get over here, they'd go, porn star, come here. And I'd be like, did he just fucking call that guy porn? Did he call porn star? Are you serious? And they would do it all the time. So
I mean, definitely. I mean, prisoners are not the most politically correct people. So, you got to choose which. If you're going to go by nicknames, you got to really be a little careful what you might say.
Yeah, I always love Gordo.
There's been a couple times where, like, I'll say, like, if I'm somewhere where there's a lot of workers, like the chow hall or something. I'll say to somebody, hey, is Johnson here? And they're like, who? Johnson. Is he here? Johnson. Oh, Alabama. Is Alabama here? Oh, yeah. He's in the back. I'm dude, you've known him for years.
I don't know this dude's name. I don't know. You know how many Pookies I know?
Right.
There Pookies, Alabama. There's ATL. I always loved the fat guys are always named like Gordo. Bald guys are like what do they call them? Malone or whatever bald is. What was the other one? Oh, I know the black guys will be like, they'll give him Black Man. What's your name? Black Man. But I don't know if I can say that. It's all right.
No,
Black Man.
No. Let me see your ID.
Yeah.
Smith.
I used to always love it when, the CO would be in the unit and the inmates would call and say, hey, Cox. I always ended up with Cox. And Cox, and I go, yeah, what's up? And they go, yo, get, Alabama. And I go, well, what does he look like? He's a black guy. Okay, bro, with dreads. All right, you're not okay. He got golds. Listen, man, that's 90% of the black guys in the unit. Dreads, gold, black. What do you help me out here? He got shot with an AK-47. Now I know. Yeah, it's the nicknames are hilarious.
Right.
But So you've been doing it 7 years, but I mean, I know that you started writing because you and I talked like, was it a year or so ago? Maybe
About
2.
that,
I
yeah.
think it was you said it, I think it was like a year. I feel like it was probably 2 years ago that we probably talked, but I feel like, but I could be wrong. Um, but you'd written you know, Brom, I want to say urban novel, but it's not. I mean, it's you'd written a fiction novel about a character that grew up like in a bad neighborhood. Is that correct?
Right.
And we talked about that. So why did you start writing that? That kind of has it kind of aligns with your story, your personal story, doesn't it? A little bit? No.
Um,
Am I wrong?
Not my personal story. It was actually kind of like a mix of a lot of other guys' stories. So I've always been an avid reader, and I was kind of, I was at my job, and I was like, I was going through a period where I was trying to figure out like new challenges for myself, just kind of build myself as a person. And um, I decided, why don't I write a book? That'd be something cool to do. And the idea came to me because originally it was going to be a prison novel,
Right.
and the character was going to be somebody who just got mixed up in the street life, goes to jail. The atmosphere gets to him, but then it gets to a point where he finds his redemption. But I also knew about guys like like yourself, Michael Francis, if you've heard of him,
Yeah.
um, Larry Lawton, just these guys who are like yourself, like bright guys, a lot of potential, and they just kind of just used it for the wrong purposes, and then they got caught, and then they got out, and now they use it to go down a different road. So that's what that was like the message I wanted to send to people because, and also like I've talked to some guys, I have conversation with these guys. There's a lot of guys in prison that are very bright, and you wonder, like, man, like,
What went wrong?
I mean, you could be like, you could be running your own business somewhere. And so that's what my character represents is that misused potential, if that makes sense.
Right.
And then so I started writing his story, and I'm what they call a pantser. So I have no idea what's going to happen in the next step of the book. So I'm writing the book, and I realized that it's going to be a long one. So I decided to break it up, and then I had other ideas start to come to me. So I published my first book, and then I started working on a second book, which was actually um, a whole different story.
Same
More.
character?
I'm sorry,
Is it the same character?
different character. Yeah, that one's more of a it's a lot. I mean, crime thriller. Yes, it's like a mafia thriller, romance, action, suspense. Just kind of a little bit of everything. Noir.
And are you self-publishing these, or did you try and go like what type of a publishing route did you take?
I tried to go traditional the first time around. You know, at this point I'm like a total novice. I have a manuscript. I'm throwing it around. It's not even edited. I'm throwing it around to all these different agents and nobody's picking it up. So, a year goes by and I realize, okay, I'm really wasting my time here. Like I want to get this thing out here now. I have others. At that point I was working on my second book and I was like, okay, let's just make this happen. Let's get this published. So I went on Amazon and I learned the step-by-step process. It was definitely a learning experience, a lot of trial and error.
Right.
And, but now I've got, 2 books published on Amazon.
Did you narrate it? Do you have it on Audible?
No, not yet. That's definitely in the future. I know that's a very popular thing nowadays, especially because, we're entering our society is more and more busy. It's hard to find time to kind of just sit down and read.
Yeah, I'm like, I actually have a guy, I can give you his phone number, and he did almost all of my books, and he just, we just split the revenue. Like, I didn't have to do anything. I certainly don't think it takes away from any sales from my printed book, but he did all of the, all the narration, put it up for me, everything. And, it doesn't generate a ton of money, but it generates probably $350, $400, a month. And of course he gets half of that.
Right.
So, which is great. Like, you get a check for $180 or, 150 or 210 or whatever. Like, that's money that I wouldn't have gotten, and I didn't have to do anything.
Right. It's the residual income.
Right, exactly. And then of course now, when someone pulls up your book, they do have that option, because let's face it, a lot of people are just not going to read. And also you can do things on Audible where you can pay for them to actually do like advertising for you. We've done that a few times. But yeah, it's definitely something I would look at, especially since it doesn't cost anything.
Right.
It's like, I was going to say, I was contacted by this company called Jelly Smack. And yeah, it sounds silly. But actually I was told about Jelly Smack, and then I was also contacted by them. Like, I just never really looked into it. And what they do is they take if you're a YouTuber, they take your existing content and they cut it up for Facebook. And then they will make a channel for you. And if you don't already have an existing, Facebook page, they'll make a page for you. And then they start putting it out on Facebook for you. Like, I don't have to do anything. It's already available and I don't have to do anything. And then if it works out, they'll send you a check. The other influencer that I talked to, or YouTuber, whatever you want to call them, she said, look, she had a meeting, they cut her stuff up, they came back, they said, we can do it. Next thing you know, she said, a month later, they're cutting me checks. She said, I didn't have to do anything. I had like one meeting and a phone call. She's like, that's it. So it's the same thing with that Audible. Like, if you already got 2 books, well, that's income you're probably missing by not making a phone call.
Yeah,
the problem is a lot of these guys, you got two different, the guys that want the money up front, and then you have guys that say, look, I'll do it and we'll just split it. Because if you pay up front, for this guy, for me to pay up front, it would probably be thousands and thousands of dollars. I was like, I just don't have that. I'm just not I don't have that to invest in order to make that money back. If I make that money back over the course of a year or two, I'm not doing it. And I didn't really think much of the idea anyway.
Right.
And the next thing you know, I said, yeah, go ahead and do it. And next thing you know, I'm getting checks being cut.
That's sort of what, that's actually why I wanted to go with traditional publishing at first, was because, obviously they take a cut of the proceeds, but, they do a lot of the work that you don't know how to do. So you can focus on, what you're good at.
Right.
And they can take care of the rest. It's probably I get like 85%, I believe.
Here's the thing, though. I have had a traditional book published by Skyhorse Publishing. I mean, it was in Barnes and Nobles. It's we optioned like the rights to the story, the whole thing, and it keeps being optioned and it sells. And honestly, like I think it's like once every 6 months or something, I get a check from them. Other than the initial advance that I got in prison, which was nothing. There was like $3,500, or was it $2,500? I think it was $3,500. Anyway, which was a huge amount of money in prison.
Right. I was about to say.
Yeah, which here's
a fortune.
Yeah, it was a fortune. Other than that, honestly, I get checks from them now let's say every 6 months for $150, $200. Like, overall, I've made way more money self-publishing with Amazon than I ever did, with that going traditional with Skyhorse.
Right. And that's the thing is, like, with Amazon, with self-publishing, you do learn. There's definitely a lot of more skill building that comes into play. I mean, like this right here, I never would have thought I'd be doing, podcasts. I didn't think
Right.
that happened. I thought I could just, my plan was to give it to the company and they'll do all the promotion and I'll just get a nice check every now and then. But, but now I do it on my own, and, you have to get more creative. You have to wake up early, and you gotta, you have to put on a lot of hats.
Yeah.
Well, like I woke up at 3:00 this morning, and I was like, "Ooh, head start on the day."
Right. Well, yeah, you've got your day job too, so.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like not like you're relying on this for income. I mean, luckily, I don't rely on. I basically get my car insurance, and my car payment, car insurance, and maybe gas money for the amount of money my books come in. Like I certainly couldn't live on that.
Right.
But then I don't do anything. Like I don't push my book. I don't push anything. Like people are buying it just because they know me and they see me they see me on YouTube. So periodically, I sell several books a day and that's it. But it's certainly not because of advertising or me ever. I really never even really talk about my book really that I can really think of, like not in years. So
I actually have 3 of your books.
I know, but that's because you saw me on YouTube.
Right.
It's like me selling paintings. Like if I sold paintings based on my effort to sell paintings, I would sell nothing. But people basically, they watch the YouTube stuff, they like me, and they go and they see the paintings, and as a result of the exposure, they see those paintings. If I didn't have YouTube, I probably wouldn't be selling any paintings. Not because I'm not any good at it, but other than YouTube, there's just no real effort on my part to do anything. I would have to really start advertising or doing something. I would have to work avenues I just don't work. If you're interested in a painting, I'm going to leave my contact information in the description beneath the video. Back to the video. So are you writing any additional books or?
Yes, I actually have. So, remember we were talking earlier how my original plan was for my book to be a prison thriller. I actually have a 3rd book coming out on August 12th. So depending on when this airs, may be available already. But that's the sequel to my first book, Ice Rising. It's called Icebox. And that actually is a prison thriller.
Okay.
I mean, it's set in the early 90s in a prison that doesn't exist in California. So I'm not stepping on too many toes where I'm at. And then I'm actually working on a collection of short stories right now. So that's my 4th work.
So why fiction? Why not write nonfiction?
I've been told I'm a good storyteller.
Right. But I mean, that's the whole thing. I was actually talking to a guy that I'm going to have come on, I have another channel, and I was going to have him come on and do the other channel. And we were talking, and I was saying to him, he'd be good at it because he is a good storyteller. Mm-hmm. Like, even though his story is pretty complicated, he can tell it. I know guys that can't tell a story at all. Like, it's like you have a very simple case and they cannot tell their crime story or their story in general, even what happened. But if you're a good storyteller, like I can tell, the guy Juan?
Yeah.
Okay. I tell Juan's story better than Juan does. I tell Zach's story better than Zach tells it. And, they're getting better. Like Juan actually did a really good job. He did a interview on my channel, and he did a great job. Like on the other channel, the first time when he did it on my channel, he was horrible. He went on Concrete, same thing. Still didn't do it great. But he's told it so many times over the next year or so. He said, I've told it so many times now. When he went upstairs, upstairs, I have a studio upstairs. When he went upstairs and did it upstairs, he did a great job. It's the same thing with Boziak. Boziak just did one too. He did an amazing job. What I'm saying is, you're saying you make it sound like you have to be telling fiction to tell a good story, but maybe you can, you look into a real story and you're able to tell it, because the person that actually lived that story has a very hard time actually being able to tell their story. Most people simply don't see themselves the way they really are. And a lot of people can't even tell you their own story or their own crime case or story. They can't do it. Like they get emotional about it. They start going on and on about things that are irrelevant. Then things that are super relevant, they breeze through. Oh yeah. And this guy got caught, and then he cooperated. He wore a wire, and then that's how they got me. It's like, okay, you just spent 20 minutes talking about this other thing that's irrelevant, and you just breeze through the crux of how you got caught like that. So, I mean, a good storyteller would know, I have to play that up. I have to really, really look into that. I have to, I have to really craft that part of the story and look into it and tell it and make it exciting. And so the only reason I say that is that those true crime stories are easier to get turned into documentaries and films than fiction stories.
You bring up an interesting point, because I mean, obviously, you hear about all these true stories like, Catch Me If You Can, Wolf of Wall Street, Casino,
American
and,
Gangster, American Hustler,
true crime stories. But obviously, you get like, I mean, in this case, we're talking about, the storytelling through a movie. It's just made so much even more epic.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that if Frank Lucas sat down and told his story, it would take all of him 20 minutes and you'd be bored to death. But, you give it to, someone like, Martin Scorsese or something. He tells a story, it's 3 hours long, and you're desperate for it not to end.
Let's have him play. Let's have Denzel Washington play him.
Right. Yeah. Same story. Yeah. I mean, I would, not that you need my advice or anything. I'm just curious to know. I mean, because the first few books that I wrote were fiction books. That was when I was out. I wrote them, put them in a drawer, never tried to pub, never did anything. It was just something to do, because fraud wasn't really like a full-time job. So I had plenty of time on my hands, but
whatever happened to those? Whatever happened to those?
One was called The Associates. I actually have a copy of it somewhere. I actually had both. One was The Associates, and one was, and it was kind of like a John Grisham novel. And the other one was, come on, Matt. Oh, it's called The Acquisition of Cuba. And it was about a private military, like Blackwater. What is Blackwater now? They changed their name, right?
I believe they did. Yeah.
Well, anyway, it was like a Blackwater style company that basically invades Cuba and takes over Cuba. So, there was just, I just, something to kind of, ideas that I had, and I, wrote a 300-page book on it and typed it out, and then never did anything with them. Probably if I had more time on my hands, I'd probably give those to, you can just hire somebody on, like OfferUp, not OfferUp. What am I saying? What it's called? Is it Upwork? You know what I'm
saying? No, I don't know that.
You can go on like LinkedIn or I want to say it's Upwork. And you can post like a job offering for someone to edit your book. I had someone edit It's Insanity, the Frank Amadeo story.
Yeah, I have that one. Yeah.
I had somebody edit that for me. I think she charged like $300 or $400. She was a stay-at-home mom. She had been a professional editor, but now she had like 2 kids, and she did this on the side. She read the book over 2 days and made like $300 or $400 or whatever. That was it. And she was like, she came back and caught a bunch of typos and little things and said, hey, you need to clarify this, or you said this twice or whatever. Caught a bunch of great stuff, and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah. It's I definitely think it's Upwork. We gotta check. Upwork.
Yeah, I'm blessed. I have a buddy that edits he edits my books for fun.
Yeah, it's yep, Upwork. Find the best people for your job. Right there, Upwork. Yeah, I was gonna say I could do that. Anyway, I'm working on 2 books right now, or 2 stories right now. One of them is
Right.
this Chip story, which has taken forever because my buddy Rossini in prison's helping me with it, and he has to know every single detail and has to order this, and we need these 4 articles, and we need this, and you got to order the transcripts for this, and pull the docket for this. Oh my God, it's just going on.
Plus, the phone clicks off every 15 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you can. Well, do you guys have like an email system, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can email. We can email. But he does research, and my buddy Zach's story. I have someone who's actually helping me write up an outline for Zach's story. His story would be great. He's in jail right now. He still can't manage to write his story. Like, you have nothing but time on your hands. I'll bet you're playing dominoes all day long, or chess, or whatever it is.
Maybe he's fighting his case.
He's not fighting his case. He's eating honey buns and watching Jerry Springer reruns. No, you know what these guys do. They play chess. Listen, probably the worst thing I've ever saw. One of the worst things in prison was watching these guys play chess, and they had turned a game of culture and played by kings and the aristocracy, and they've turned it into just like dice. They're yelling at each other. In your face, motherfucker. I got your bitch. I'm in your fucking house now. Yeah.
I've seen that.
What you gonna do now? It's like, what are you doing?
I've seen that.
Oh, it's horrible.
Oh man, it's hilarious, especially when you're bored and you just kind of see 2 guys, and they're not going to fight.
Oh, they're getting there each other's face, and I've seen guys fight. Like, getting pull out a pin and go and stab the other guy. I was in the county jail, and I saw this Puerto Rican guy stab this black kid he was playing, and they were both mouthing off like they always do. But the next thing you know, the Puerto Rican guy just grabbed the pin and just hit him a few times. And the next thing you know, there's blood, and they're chasing each other around. And I was like, this is a game played by the upper crust of society. This is a game of thought. This is a game of strategy. You guys are mouthing off like children. God.
Horrible. What pieces would you be on the board?
What? What piece would I be?
No, them.
Huh?
What piece would they be on the board? The pawns.
Oh, I don't know. The knights, they're cutting left and right. It's bad. It's bad. It's just a horrible, horrible species. I think about it all the time. Listen, we were talking about, God, this stuff you must see too. Like, I was just thinking, they're draining, or what's that? Is it Lake Mead or something, where the water level's going down? They keep finding all these bodies.
Yeah.
Like, which is a horrible species. Drowned in each other, putting blocks on people, throwing them out in the lakes. I mean, they're just coming bodies after bodies after bodies. Like, what a horrible, horrible species we are.
It's hard to be a humanist these days.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially in prison. I mean, seeing the stuff you've probably seen, these guys they're just maniacs.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, like, the psychology behind everything. I mean, when we come in, they tell us, listen, it's a game. They break the rules and we catch them. I was like, okay. But you just watch these guys. They come in and they just, they do just the stupidest stuff. Like, they'll steal more from the chow hall, or they'll just blatantly lie. And it's like, but you're playing a game. It's like, dude, this is your life. You're playing a game with your life.
Yeah.
I'm not going to knock somebody that comes to prison, you know, I mean, everybody makes mistakes, but like take your life seriously. You don't get younger.
Yeah.
You don't stay static. You keep getting older.
Yeah.
And you know, it's sad when you get to the point where I was there long enough, I'm starting to see guys come back.
Oh, I've done that. I've seen guys leave, come back, do another bid, come back on violation, come back, get out, come back again on violation. I mean, 13 years. It was like, what are you doing?
Right. Doing life. We call it doing life on the installment plan.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
and it gets to the point, like I try to reach some of the new guys, and it's like, you know, I see a bunch of lifers. I'll point one out, like, you know, that guy's been in prison since '82. And I know you've probably heard these conversations. It gets to the point where some of these guys, where they start talking about, you know, yeah, I was on First Street, you know, First Street over by the McDonald's. Yeah, I know the McDonald's. Yeah. Then a few years go by and they don't realize that McDonald's is shut down. Like, it's a Wendy's now. And then later on, they're talking about streets like that street's not even the street name anymore. And then it just gets to the point, they just talk about the prisons they've been at.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I was at, you know, such and such prison. Man, they were straight. Food was pretty good. No, it wasn't straight. The food wasn't good. You know, it's not like here. It's like, no, it's all bad. It's bad everywhere you go. It's like, you know, it happens to us too. It happens to like staff. Like you walk in and it's like I think your brain's adapting to it. You just adapt to your environment. Otherwise you go crazy. Yeah. So like we walk in, we're just in there for hours, and we'll be like, you know, I ask some guy, hey, what's for lunch today? Pizza. I'm like, oh, that's good. No, it's not good. It's still bad. It's still bad. Right. And I'll get mad at my coworkers because they'll be eating something and be like, yeah, this could be better. I'm like, dude, like, not for nothing, but we're COs, you know, we have like vending machines we can use, options. You can bring food from home. Right. You know?
Yeah, listen, the vending machines and visitation were better than anything we were eating inside. But to be honest, you know, the food it just wasn't as bad. There were some meals that were just horrible, but it was never as bad as I really thought. Like, I really thought it was just going to be slop. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, you know, you see the movies. That's what I thought. I thought it was going to be like something that looked like oatmeal with some meat in it. Right. You know, every meal. And I got there and it wasn't that bad. And periodically there was a decent meal. And I never felt like you hear guys complain all the time. And, you know, it's like, you know, honestly, when you were robbing banks, what did you think they were going to feed you when you got caught? You know, I mean, what did you expect? And so I tried my best just to never complain about anything, because, you know, I put myself here and, you know, I should have thought things through a little bit better, you know, so I wasn't going to complain about it. But, you know, it's funny too, because I'll hear guys will tell me about, you know, being locked up, and they're always like, you know, like, yeah, that's ridiculous. You know, they're locking these guys up and it's, you know, so unfair and this and that. And I was thinking, and it's always some guy who's like never been to prison. Cause it's like, wait a minute, listen, I've been to prison. Trust me. These guys need to be locked up. Like, you don't want these guys living in your neighborhood. Like, I didn't want to get out and say, hey, I want to go move in next to so-and-so and this guy. And, you know, no, very few guys do I want to still be friends with and know. The other guys I could really prefer never to see again. And if I did see him again, I would immediately think I'm being robbed. Because most of those guys, and I say most, let's say 70, 80% of those guys are actively working on their next case.
Right.
You know, they're not in there trying to say, hey, I'm going to better myself. Or if they are, a lot of them, some of them are, but a lot of them are in there. They're delusional. Like, they're thinking, I'm going to go out, I'm going to open a chain of restaurants and I'm going to, how are you going to do that? Like you need to be reasonable. Could that happen? Yes, but be reasonable. It's just, you know, it's tough. And, you know, you get in there and yeah, you can get into a good routine and there are decent people in there, but there's a lot of guys that you just don't want to be around.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got all kinds. I
That's
mean,
why I
I've
definitely don't
met.
want to go back.
Right. Right. No, you, no, you don't.
Yeah.
You gotta. I think a lot of it has to do with, self worth. A lot of guys, especially guys that with drug problems, it's a self worth issue. They don't realize that they can, you know, be more than what they are. They just kind of settle for it, especially in prison. Because it's like, you know, um, you go to prison and it's like, okay, well, I'm here now. I mean, it is what it is. I guess I'll stop trying.
Right.
I'm a prisoner now. I'm a convict. I'm a criminal. It's like, are you a criminal or did you just do something? Do you just have a felony?
It depends. A lot of them want to turn it. They want to make it their life's, mission. Like, I'm going to get out, and they want to do it again and again. The problem is ultimately you then either end up in prison for your entire life, you die in prison, or you get so old that by the time you get out, you have no retirement, you have nobody, everybody's given up on you. You're living in
Mm,
someone's spare room, you're on some kind of subsidy, and you're bitching and moaning the whole time about how unfair life has been to you, but you never really made an effort.
right,
A lot of these guys are just,
right.
and that's,
I mean,
I would see them, and you can, it's just funny for me to see them and see what was happening, and you can explain it to them and just watch them make the same bad decisions over and over again.
yeah, yeah.
So
I mean,
this
you
is
know,
depressing.
we're all creatures of habit, and that's more of like, prison's definitely like an extreme example of that. Like I know, you know, with officers, there's, obviously prison's a negative environment. Most people, whether they are incarcerated or whether they work there, probably would rather be somewhere else.
Yeah.
Um, I know a few people that's not the case, but you know, it's easy to give way to that negativity. You
Yeah.
see it in our staff, whatever's going on, if they're having a problem with administration or just the job or, a beef with another coworker. And it's like, you know, dude, at the end of the day, and I used to be like that, I used to be, I used to be very disgruntled. And I just realized, like, dude, we choose to come in here every day, you know?
Right.
And I talked to a lot of guys that they want to leave, but say, okay, but I mean, you can either see the advantage of where you're at and understand that it does pay well. You can raise a family off it. I am. You can see the positives. There's good people there. Or you can just focus on the negative all day. But at the end of the day, dude, you are leaving at some point.
Right.
So there's no point in harping on it.
I have a question for you.
Mhm.
Do they allow tattooing? So this is completely off
No,
subject, but no, you're not
no,
allowed to tattoo.
no tattooing,
Do,
none
but
whatsoever.
but people tattoo, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, yes, they do.
I mean, it was just funny because in the low, they really were cracking down on like they were always looking for guys, or where'd you get, a guy, it was always killed me, and some guy'd get a fresh tattoo and be walking around the compound. What are you doing? And the next thing you know, they get
Right.
grabbed and they get a shot for mutilation, right?
Yeah.
And then like, who did it? Where are and then they go in there, they start looking at the cameras, they trying to see where he went. But in the medium, like literally the tattoo guy would go to the CO and say, listen, I'm gonna be honest with you, I tattoo. Like, I don't want to do it, be blatant about it. What are your feelings on it? And the CO would be like, listen, I don't give a shit what you do, but the lieutenant's going to come by here between 7 and 7:45. So you need to get a lookout,
Wow.
man. Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny because when you first get to the prison, you have to talk to what's called SIS. It's like the
Mhm.
Special Investigative Unit. They do investigations, but they also investigate the guards. And they all give you a speech, and I remember the speech that I was given, because every inmate gets it. Like, you come in, you meet with medical, you meet with psychology, you meet with, just real quick, boom, boom, thinking about hurting yourself? Do you have any health issues? And then the next guy, and then you get the SIS comes in to see if you have like a gang affiliation, that sort of thing. And I remember he looked, when I came from the medium to the low, he said, Cox, you're going to be okay here. And I said, I went, okay. And he said, I'm gonna put it to you like this. And I said, okay. He said, I'm gonna put it to you like this. He goes, at the pen, we're trying to keep the inmates from stabbing us. He goes, at the medium, we're trying to keep the inmates from stabbing each other. He goes, at the low, we're trying to keep the inmates following the rules. He said, follow the rules, you're going to be okay. He is based on your record, he said, it looks like you follow the rules. Like I never got any shots or anything. So, and I was like, all right, that was it. So that's what I'm saying. Like at the medium, like as far as I know, like guys at the pen, they said the guards will walk right by. You know what I'm saying? They're just like, we're just trying not to get hurt.
Oh man. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, if I caught that, yeah, that'd be a whole thing. Actually, it's funny you're talking about tattooing. I remember one time I was searching for contraband, and I was checking a locker. I don't know. I don't know about the lockers that y'all had. Like a school locker, just it's prison, and like at the top, there's like an inside ridge.
Yeah.
That guys can hide their stuff in, and like an idiot, I slid my fingers.
Oh, stuck yourself?
Stuck myself. I was like, ow. And I was like, oh, shit. Yeah. And I checked. It was a tattoo needle. That was maybe the scariest moment of my life. Now, I mean, if I go in there tomorrow and I get punched in the face,
right?
I signed up with the possibility that might happen. I might get punched in the face. I'm fine with that. But, I got, wife at home, if I'm getting stuck. So, because, they talk about HIV and, hepatitis and all that. So went to the hospital and got updated on my tetanus shots. That was awesome. And then they took blood from me, gave me something else to take. And then I had to go back about 5 times over the next 6 months just to make sure I was still negative on everything. Thank God I am, but yeah, that terrified the hell out of me. And then I think the other time was like when COVID hit and it's like, oh, everybody's getting sick. Like, I don't want to take this home. I don't mind something happening to me there. I don't want to die, but I don't mind something happening to me there. I made peace with the fact that it could, but just I don't want to take anything home.
Right. Yeah, like I said, my buddy Pete said that the COs were getting sick constantly. Too. The inmates too. The inmates obviously, but the COs too, because they're coming in and out of the same environment over and over and over again. And guys are retiring, and said then guys were not wanting to show up. Then they were threatening to fire them. Then it was just like, he was, my buddy said, I feel like I know more about what's going on than the COs that are here. It's like they're so new.
The job is, what you make it.
Right.
You want to take it as a job. You want to take it as a stepping stone. You want to take it as a career. I've been all kinds. I've thought stepping stone. I thought career, and now, for me, it's a job. I respect it as a job. I'm asked to, I'll do what I'm asked, and I'll do what I'm required to do. But when I kind of came upon writing, I really realized that, there was another path for me. I think in a similar way, you probably came across the same yourself when you started writing stories. You just kind of realize, that, God or, whatever you want to believe in, there's, different, there's different paths you didn't expect. And I was a late bloomer. I'm 29. I was 25 when I picked up and started writing. I used to hate it. Like in school, they'd have you write essays and all that, and I hated it. And then I kind of just realized how good I was at it.
Yeah, I like the research and putting things together and being able to tell a story in a certain way. And
right,
I like the foreshadowing and leading and I like the research. And yeah, it definitely gave me especially in prison, it's like it's what got me through. It was like,
right,
listen, towards the end, like I was indifferent as far as leaving. it was like I was perfectly okay in there. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
what we were talking about, it becomes your whole world, like, and that's what it had become because I just didn't really, after, it was like by probably after about 6 or 7 years, it was like I had a great routine and I was okay. I wanted
Right.
out, you want out, but it
Right.
wasn't as depressing of an environment as it had been that entire time. And then that was about the same time I really started getting into writing, so I need to write more, well,
Yeah.
but all
It's
right.
it's 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 definitely a balancing act. I mean, you're really, you're a busy guy. I'm a busy guy. It's definitely a balancing act. Um, I feel with the whole like being in, like kind of just being indifferent about being in there. You used to dread it, used to hate it. Now it's just like, okay, like this is something I'm just dealing with until, I get to the next step. That's kind of the stage that I'm in now. I've got nothing but respect for the job. It's pays my bills, honest work. It's true. They are kind of like, unsung heroes. Keeping the scary guys locked up and stuff.
Right.
Me personally, I'm ready to make the transition. And for me, that's kind of what I'm working on now. Like I kind of realize that writing is my career. This is like a respectable job, and I respect it as such. Do you mind if I kind of get some exposure for my books out right
Yeah,
quick?
I mean, yeah, plug the book. And
Yeah.
I'll put the in the description, I'll make sure Colby puts the links to the
Hmm.
books. And yeah, so definitely anything, any social media or the books, you can find them on Amazon, right? What are the names?
Yep. Yep. I've actually got copies right here, so when people see the image, they'll know what to click on. This is my uh,
You just stopped. You froze.
grows up in rough area. He's taught stay off the street, protect your family. A drive-by happens that claims the life of one of his friends, wounds his little brother, and he blames himself. So he takes it upon himself to join a gang, and he's got a genius talent for business. So he uses that to further his criminal exploits. That's the misused potential. It's part of an ongoing series. This is the first one, Ice Rising. Icebox is on the way. They'll be released August 2012. Both these books are available on Kindle and Kindle Unlimited for those of you that have that. Also available on paperback. I also have my other book, The Ballad of Johnny Carlo. That's the story of an ex hitman for the mafia who becomes disillusioned with the mafia, goes on the run, runs down New Orleans, where you meet Leisha Abraham, who is the homicide detective investigating a series of gangland slayings in New Orleans. And her investigation is complicated by the fact that one of the leaders of the gangs is her own father. So that's available on Kindle, Kindle Unlimited, paperback, and I also have hardcover. So definitely check it out. You can follow me on my Facebook author page, James Michaels. I'm also on Instagram, same thing, James E. Michaels for my middle initial, and James Real Mike on Twitter. I
Okay.
also had a crime fiction, true crime book club called Books and Crooks on Facebook for readers and writers of crime fiction, true crime. We can kind of get together and mingle and network. So
All
that's
right,
it.
and I'll put all the description, all the links will be in the description. So if you shoot me that over, I'll have Colby put everything in the description. All right, I appreciate you guys checking out the video, and do me a favor, if you like the video, share it, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified. Also, leave me a comment. I try and respond to as many comments as I possibly can, and I appreciate you checking out the video, or podcast or whatever. See you.